Question is, as a redeemed progressive, what is the key to empowering men in the Me Too age while maintaining healthy boundaries and strong behavioral expectations?
We've had relatively reliable birth control since 1960. Okay, that's not very long. And we underestimate the unbelievable technological triumph of birth control. It's the hydrogen bomb, it's the transistor, like it's a major league transformation in human interaction.
He's going to hit a couple of nails on the head, talk about how modern times have changed and what has become of those effects. So everything has consequences. The new changes in times and how easy and quick everyone is to have sex without thinking twice about it, that does have effects. It has consequences, and he's going to get into it.
Women are now free from involuntary reproduction. That's never been the case in the entire history of the planet. Okay, we don't know exactly what to do about that. Okay, so the first idea in the 60s was, hell, let's party. And you can see why. It's like what the rules for not engaging in promiscuous sexual intercourse seemed to have vanished. So we had a couple of decades of experimentation. How'd that go? Little hard on the family, I would say. That's not so good for kids. AIDS, that wasn't a plus. Could have killed us all. And it mutated, particularly to take advantage of promiscuous sex, because viruses are very tricky things. So it turns out that sex is a little bit more complicated than we thought. But actually turns out that it's a lot more complicated than we think. Okay.
This is what we see here today, how things have just gone rampant. A lot of things, feminism, dating, a lot of changes in sexuality. And this man is smart. He's a clinician. He's done his research. He's helped many people. This is backed by statistics. This is backed by data. This is backed by facts. He's going to go into more of his personal experience. Let's hear more from him.
When is it okay to have sex? Exactly. And when is it not okay to have sex? And what does consent mean? And the answer to that is, we never used to have to think these things through, because the rule was don't have sex until you get married. That was the rule. Now that isn't the rule. Okay, so what's the rule? We're not having a conversation about the rule. We're waiting till someone does something that seems like it might be untoward and then mobbing them and trying to extract the rule out that way. And it's not a very effective way of doing it. You want to decrease campus rape? That's easy. Get rid of alcohol. No one has that conversation. It's like I did my PhD work on alcohol. 50% of the people who are murdered are drunk, and 50% of the people who kill them are drunk. And almost all the date rape situations are consequences of excess intoxication. But yet there's a party culture on campuses, and anything goes. And you also have this strange thing, especially on the radical left, which is unbelievably paradoxical, where absolutely every form of sexual expression imaginable is 100% permissible because sex is fine, but it's so dangerous that while you're dancing with someone at a Princeton mixer, you have to ask them 2 or 3 times if it's okay for you to continue. That's actually the case, by the way. I'm not making that up. Both of those things can't be true. Now, what's happening, I think, on the Me Too end of things and the affirmative consent end of things is the old sexual taboos are reasserting themselves. The idea that we can extract sex out from emotional intimacy, and especially emotional intimacy, I would say, psychological intimacy, maybe even from long-term relationship, I don't believe it's a tenable idea. I don't think we can do it. And a lot of what we're seeing is the backlash against that. I feel used, because one of the things that's happening on the really radical end of the anti-sexual abuse movement is the idea that if you have intercourse with someone and then you regret it the next day, that's evidence that it wasn't consensual. It is, in a sense, evidence that it wasn't consensual, because it's evidence that you didn't bloody well think it through, right? It was good for last night, but it's not good for today. It's not very wise. The question is, what constitutes consent? And we need to have a very serious conversation about that. Like, under what circumstances is it acceptable to give consent?
He hit so many gems on the head. A big one: college intoxication. Remove the alcohol from college campuses. Stop making it so easily accessible. Obviously, people will still get it in there, but making that a normal thing for people to go to college parties, go to college gatherings, college frat parties. You know what goes on there. If you don't know, people go there and just get blisteredly drunk. So drunk, they stumbling out. And like he said, majority of the cases, people that are getting raped, that person who got raped was actually drunk. The person who was the rapist was also someone else who was drunk. So removing that out the equation is one thing. Also getting on to consent. Somebody can wake up the next day, they agreed everything was going on and seemed to be okay with what happened that night, and then wake up and say the next morning I felt used. That's another huge thing. So what is it going to come down to? Actually having to sign a document where you gave consent? That seems very unrealistic. But what other options do you have to actually prove that this person agreed and gave you consent? So he's touching on so many great and valid points. It's amazing. He's very intelligent. Let's see what else he has to say.
We want to be able to do whatever we want, with whoever we want, whenever we want, with no consequences, and we want there never to be any trouble about consent. No, that's not going to happen. I don't think that sex works very well outside of committed relationships. I don't think there's any evidence that it does. There's a strong proclivity across cultures for the enforcement, social enforcement of long-term monogamy. And there's reasons for that. And I think you deviate from that at your peril. So now, if you want to deviate from that, there's all sorts of reasons to do it. And I can understand why people are interested in adventure and all of that. My sense also as a clinician is you only really get to try out about 5 people in your life. You have to make a decision pretty damn quick. Between 20 and 30, there's a lot of things to get straight, and long-term mate is usually one of them. Most of the time, people should be more careful with their sexual behavior when they're young, especially when they're drunk, than they are. And I just think it's so interesting that all of the taboo reconstruction is coming from the radical left. It's not what you'd expect at all. You'd think it'd be the damn right-wing Christians complaining about sexual immorality. It's the radical lefties. You have to have signed consent before making any physical move. And then that's so what? Really? Who thought that up? Right. That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You know how awkward that would be? You're supposed to be able to do a little bit of nonverbal reading. That's part of romance. You don't see a movie where the 2 people who are dating exchange consent notes. Like, that doesn't happen. So it's an unrealistic solution. But I think the real solution is that
again, he is just dropping gems, and he's advocating for strong family households. He's advocating for a long-term relationship. So if you don't want to feel used, you don't want to feel taken advantage of, a long-term relationship with husband.
Despite the fact that we have reliable birth control, we're going to have to relearn what the acceptable rules of propriety are with regards to sexual relationships. One of the things I often tell my young clients is, don't do anything physically with anyone that you wouldn't talk to them about. Because if you're too damn embarrassed to talk about it, maybe it's a little premature in the relationship to actually do it. And then there's harm in it.
Sum it all up, get married, find your person, go back into how things used to be. Waiting, stop drinking, don't get drunk and have sex with somebody. So it's all types of different spiritual energies, and also a key. He didn't talk about it, but this is key. If you're laying down with someone, make sure you are careful what the words that are coming out your mouth when you are having sex with them. So it's very critical. So you're actually going into another world. Think about your mind. You feel like you're out of space, you're out of world, you're out of body. Be careful what you're saying to that person. You tap into different energies, different frequencies. So be mindful on what you're speaking, who you're laying down with, and don't be drunken when you're doing it.